feel like every time I talk about the DELE exam, I'm wearing this, but you know what? Consider this a series. Hello, my name is Emmy, and this video is exactly what the title suggests. I'll break down how I studied the DELE exam in a month, and I'll also tell you what I would definitely do differently. But let me make it clear in the beginning that I studied Spanish for a year, and I prepared for the DELE exam for a month. So it's not like I went from 0 to B2 in a month. Let me just make that clear in the beginning so there's no confusion. And the single most important advice that I would like to offer in the beginning is to not do it in a month. 1 month is just way too short of a time period. It's gonna be stressful and you're paying a lot of your precious money to take this exam. So give yourself enough time to prepare for it. Having said that, I will tell you how I miraculously passed the exam. And I don't wanna make this video too long, so let's just jump right into it. First, I'll talk about how I studied. And I wanna categorize it in two things. One is the short term and the other is the long term. So the short term one is what I did within that month. And the long term one is the things that I'm glad that I did throughout the year that I think really contributed or was really useful to this DELE exam. So yeah, let's start with the short term. First of all, I used this textbook. My friend Akari-chan gave it to me. It's all in Spanish. All the instructions and everything are in Spanish. And the first thing that I did, which I think is pretty important, is to identify what you struggle with. At the beginning, before I studied anything, I did a couple of pages of this textbook, which is just like practice quizzes. And that allowed me to see what I really needed to work on and what to really prioritize throughout the month. And for me, that was vocabulary 100%. And otherwise it was reading and writing. So for vocabulary, the most important thing that I did was to memorize all the vocabulary that is kind of listed in this textbook. For each chapter, there's like 7 or 8 chapters. For each chapter, they have like a list of like the B2 level vocabulary. And I didn't know most of them. And I looked up every single one of them and I put them in my Anki deck. I think there was like 400 or something, and I memorized all of them, which is a lot, but I was very motivated. So that was the first thing I did. And for reading and writing, actually, I hadn't practiced reading or writing Spanish at all throughout the year. Like, it sounds dumb, but just seeing so many Spanish words was very intimidating and overwhelming for me. And I realized that I just needed to get used to reading Spanish. So what I did was that I committed to reading one BBC News article in Spanish every single day. And that kind of trained me to not be scared of seeing so many Spanish words, which sounds dumb, but I think that really helped. And especially because it's kind of more academic Spanish. Like, you know, the only Spanish content that I really read was like YouTube comments. And for my writing, I asked my Peruvian friend Rodrigo to help me out and be my teacher, and I paid him. And my friend Rodrigo was amazing. He would always be super prepared for the lessons that we had, and he really spent time on trying to help me out. And I really think that that helped a lot, because especially for writing and for speaking, you can't really practice on your own. You need somebody to check your writing. I would suggest that you would find a friend or just like an online teacher who can check your stuff and give you feedback, and so you can identify like what you always get wrong, how to construct better sentences, and that kind of stuff. And back to some more general tips. One is that it's good to do a lot of practice quizzes, which I guess is kind of obvious, but through this textbook or there's practice quizzes online, make sure to take that a lot, at least to a point where you kind of understand the routine of the questions, because the instructions are always the same. Talking about this, I feel like that's the most generic advice that I could give. I'm sorry, but yeah. And my last tip for the short-term thing is to go on the internet and look for information. Especially on YouTube, there's a lot of videos of like Spanish teachers and stuff giving you advice on what these exams are looking for, what kind of answers they are looking for, or kind of like, especially for the writing and stuff, how to start off a sentence, how to sound a little more formal in Spanish. And it's good to just kind of like memorize a couple of phrases that you can throw in just to sound smarter in Spanish. If you're new to my channel and you're watching this video, you're already doing your job by doing that. So just watch more people who are giving more specific advice on how to pass the DELE exam. So yeah, that was a rundown on kind of the short-term tips that I have, the ones that I think that were the most important. And now I'll just talk about 3 tips, or like the things that I'm really glad that I did long-term. And one is to practice speaking a lot. I feel like there wasn't a lot that I could do throughout the month, and I just kind of had to trust on everything that I built up upon. Wait, is that something I get to get a little? I'm not sure if I'm making sense in English, but anyways, the point is that speaking is something that's long-term. So practice that. You don't have to do it every single day, but do it as much as you can. And the next thing that I'm glad that I did was that I listened to a lot of different accents. One of the things that a couple of people told me before doing the DELE exam was that it's really hard because there's a lot of different accents. It's not only mainland Spanish, but they're gonna have Mexicans and Argentine people and it's so hard to understand and blah, blah, blah. That's what a couple of people told me, but to be honest, it's not that hard. As long as you've been listening to different kinds of Spanish, there's no need to worry about it. And I feel like Spain, Mexico, and Argentina are just like the main ones, at least for this exam. I feel like if you know at least those 3 accents, then you're good to go. And my last long-term tip is to use an app called Language Transfer. I made a whole dedicated video about this app a long time ago, which is one of my earliest videos, so it's probably very cringe. I would not watch it, but if you're interested, then it will give you a better idea of what the app is about. But basically, it's a grammar course in audio form, and it's free. It's like a nonprofit, and it relies completely on donations. I am a Patreon, by the way. I love it that much. And literally because of this app, I didn't struggle that much with grammar. It drilled in the basic grammar rules so well into my brain. Anyways, okay. And finally, I want to talk about what I would do differently. And the first advice is super obvious. Don't do it in a month. Don't be like me. It was not fun. Do not recommend. And the next thing that I really regret is that I waited for so long to look up things on the internet, to watch videos giving tips on how to take the DELE exam, what to say, what kind of phrases to use. I don't know how to explain the psychology of why I didn't do it, but I just felt really scared to look up information when I knew that I didn't have time. But I literally looked up tips for the interview, for the speaking exam on the day of my exam, on the morning of my exam. That was the first time that I looked up like what you're supposed to say and that kind of stuff. Do not and I don't know why, I just felt so much resistance and I felt so scared of looking up stuff. And I don't know if that's just me and I'm crazy, but if any of you out there are feeling like that for some reason, I will be the one to tell you, go look up what to do on the internet. Go watch those videos. I don't know if this tip made sense to anybody, but yeah, I hope that it makes sense to somebody out there. And the last thing that I want to talk about is a very controversial opinion. I probably shouldn't be saying this. You don't have to take the exam. Like, you don't have to take the DELE exam. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but you don't need to prove to anybody of how good you are at a language. The reason why I took this exam was because I thought that it would give me motivation to like study harder, but also a huge factor, a huge reason is that I am Japanese and we love exams. Like, if you're learning a language, it almost feels like a natural progression to take an exam for it. And maybe some of you are like, what? Maybe this is like only Japan or like Asia, but I think that was kind of my mindset. But to be honest, for me, doing this exam kind of sucked out the energy, or no wait, sucked out the fun of doing Spanish. And when it finished, I got burnt out. I feel like I was suddenly taking myself really seriously, or like my Spanish studies really seriously, and that kind of messed up the rhythm that I'd built up of learning Spanish in a fun way, in a relaxed way. Yeah, I don't want to discourage anybody from taking the exam. Like, if you want to do it, please do it. Ignore everything that I said. If you need it for a job, obviously that's a different story. But I'm just saying, if you feel pressured to do it, or you feel like you just have to take it just because, like, you don't need to do that to yourself. And personally, I would honestly not take it again. Like, I wouldn't say I regret taking it because obviously I passed. I have this certificate now. But yeah, I honestly don't think I would take a C1. Yeah, so I hope that I didn't piss off too many people with that. But tell me if you agree or disagree in the comments. I would love to know. I think it depends on personality as well, whether this type of thing worked for you or not. And before I end this video, I want to talk about what's next for me. My plan. A lot of people have been asking me, what are you going to do next? Are you going to do another language? Are you going to do the C2, C1 level? And I want to announce, I first thought I'm going to keep this a secret until the videos come out, but I don't think there's any need to keep it a secret. I want to let you guys in, so I'm going to just say it. I'm going to be doing French for a month. In the month of March, I'm gonna be doing French. And you probably won't see videos about French until a month later, because I just want to document everything in the month and make a video or two about it. And so if anybody's still watching at this point, if you are learning French, or if you've learned French before, I am all ears. I would love to know your favorite French YouTubers, French singers, French movies, French TV shows, French podcasts, everything French. Like all the resources that I always talk about in Spanish. If you have French ones, I would love to know. Please let me know in the comments. I think I'll also make a community post about it, but I would be incredibly grateful if you guys could give me some tips, point me to some different resources, materials. Yeah, so that's exciting. So it's getting dark outside, but that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. But yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye.